Good afternoon, everyone. Today, the topic of discussion is Introduction to Lightning Framework. So, basically, the major work of Salesforce technology is done on the Lightning Framework, and this framework is designed for the providing the basic functionalities and the advanced functionalities to the developers for using the different web components. So, starting with your introduction. So, firstly, there is an Aura component. So, Lightning components are somewhat similar to the Aura components and the Lightning Web components. So, the Lightning component or the API is having the API version 45, and now you can have multiple Lightning components, and that can be built with the two different programming models. One is your Lightning Web component model, and the another one is the original Aura component model. So the Lightning component framework is basically a UI framework. It is used for the developing Lightning components for the mobile devices as well as your desktop devices. Lightning Web Components and the Aura Web Components both are coexisting, and then they are interoperating on a page. So the Lightning Web Components are, as the name suggests, you are the core web component standards, and they are used to provide the necessary actions to perform well in the browsers that is supported by the Salesforce technology. Now, because this Aura component is built in on the code, so that this can run in multiple browsers, and the Lightning Web Components is very light, and it is used to deliver a very exceptional performance. So all the codes that are written in the Lightning components are basically following the JavaScript format and the HTML format. So now when you have to design new components, you have to create Lightning Web Components instead of the Aura components. So the Lightning Web Components are far more better than the Aura components, and they are very easier to understand. So whenever we are developing any of the Lightning Web Components, you you can use Aura component as well as the uh, Lightning Web Components. So when but when we need to develop the web component, mostly Aura is used because LWC is not supporting all the features that the Aura component is supporting. So we have the working, and the LWC will be using everywhere while developing the Lightning components. Now we have, when we want to configure or when we want to install any of the Lightning components and Aura components that is working, then we have to use the Lightning app developer or the app builder and the experience builder. Now the administration, the admins and the users are not aware of the programming model or the languages that will be used to develop the components. So now starting with your Salesforce Lightning. The Lightning includes the Lightning component framework, and then there are certain different tools that are designed for the developers, and then Lightning is very easier, and it is very responsive application for any of the devices. So the Lightning components includes different technologies. The Lightning components are used for for accelerating the development and for accelerating the app performance. Now you have to develop custom components that other developers and admins can use as a reusable building blocks that to customize Lightning experience and the Salesforce mobile applications. We have the Lightning app builders also, that is used by the administrations, that the admins that that can easily build the Lightning pages, and they do not use any code for development, then it can use the off-shell and the custom-built Lightning components. These Lightning components are available in the Lightning App Builder, so the administrators can build custom users interfaces without knowing any code. Now the experience builder, the experience builders are used to help the admins to build the communities visually. Here also there is no need of the code, and then you can use this, you can help developing the communities with the Lightning templates and the components. You can make the Lightning components available in the experience builder so administrator can build community pages without the code. Now when we have to use the Lightning web components instead of Aura components, so the Lightning web components are performing always better than the Aura components, and it is very easier to understand. So whenever you are developing Lightning web component, you also need the Aura components, because the Lightning web components is not yet supporting any of some of the features that Aura is supporting. So how we will decide which of the component, whether we have to use the Lightning components, whether we have to use the Aura components. So you always have to choose web components, and because it is very easier and it is less complex. So now, why we are using the Lightning component framework? There are certain things, certain advantages of using the Lightning component framework. They are supporting the out of the box components. So out of the box components are basically used to kickstart any of the building applications that we want to build, and you do not need to have the prior knowledge of optimizing the apps, or you can use those devices for different devices as the components take care for that. Then we have the rich custom component ecosystem. For the rich custom component ecosystem, we can easily create business ready components, and we can easily make them available in the Salesforce mobile applications, the Lightning applications, and the experience builder sites. So the Salesforce mobile application users can easily access the components via the navigation menu. When we have to customize Lightning experience, or when we have to create our own Lightning pages using the drag and drop components in the Lightning app builder, you can create and customize experience builder sites using the experience builder. We can have additional components also available in the org section in the app exchange. You can also publish your components, and then you can share those components with the other users that are accessing those Lightning app builder features. Next is your fast development. So whenever I'm using the Lightning component framework, it is helping us to save the time and work faster, because the out of the box components are provided to us that will function very efficiently with the desktop as well as the mobile devices. Now whenever you have to build an app with the components, so it will facilitate the parallel design as well as it will improve the development efficiency. The components are encapsulated and they are made private, so that whenever we want to make certain features public, then only those features can be visible to the users of that component. Now some of the features are made private and some of the features are made public, so that you can change the internal implementation details, and you can also insulate the component consumers for these changes. Now we have here device aware and cross browser compatibility. The applications uses the responsive design, and it will also support the latest browser technology, that is the HTML5 and the CSS and the other touch events. Now, whenever I have to use the Lightning components, I have to enable a debug mode. Why we want to enable the debug mode? Because we have to customize our Lightning components to support multiple users. And for this, we are using the JavaScript code. When when you are enabling the debug mode for the users, they can easily use the JavaScript and start debugging the JavaScript. Now, whenever the debug mode is available, certain users cannot easily access the Salesforce, because the Salesforce is becoming slower when we are enabling the debug mode. Then we have our production mode. So by default, the framework is always executing in the production mode. This mode is optimized for performance, and then framework code is optimized, and then it is minimized to reduce the size of the JavaScript code. There is a certain term that is minified for reducing the size of the JavaScript. Now for this process, the JavaScript code is served to the browser. Then after that, the optimization and minification are performed on framework code. Then I have the different custom component code that that the user or the developer has created, who are using the JavaScript, and that cannot be minified. So the custom component code cannot be changed, and it will include both the components that you are creating for the users and one that is installed as a managed package. Then we have the debug mode. So because the Lightning framework is supporting two different types of mode. One is the production mode, where you are creating your custom components, and then the second one is the debug mode. So the debug mode is enabled when you have created certain components, whether as a part of the user needs or as a part of the components installed in the package. So whenever you are enabling the debug mode, framework and component JavaScript code is can never be minified, and then you can read it and then debug it. So the debugging add will give you the output as well as the errors and the warnings. Whenever I want to enable the debug mode for users in the org, then from here we are going to the setup mode, and then we are moving to the enter debug mode in the quick find box. Then I am selecting debug mode users, and then after that, from there, users will with the debug mode will be enabled, and we can check in the check mark in the debug mode column. Then in the users list, we can locate any of the user who need debug mode enabled. If necessary, there are different standard list view controls that will enable the filter and apply the filter on the org users. You can enable the selection checkbox next to the users from whom you want to enable debug mode, and then you can click on the enable, and then in the similar way you can easily disable the debug mode for the user by following the simple steps of disable. Then you can how can you add Lightning components as custom tabs in a Lightning app? When you are using the Lightning components, and you have to use the Lightning experience for that and the Salesforce mobile app users by displaying them in a custom tab in a Lightning app. So these are the steps to include your component in the Lightning experience and make it available to the users in the organization. Firstly, you have to create a custom tab for the component that you want to access. Then from there, you need to go to the setup, and then you have to enter the tabs in the quick find box, and then you have to select tabs. Then you have to click new in the Lightning component tabs. Then you have to select the lightning component that you want to make available to the users. You can enter a label to display on the tab. Then you can select the tab style and then you can click next. When prompted, you can add the different profiles of the users as I discussed in the previous lectures about the different profiles of the users. And then you can accept the default and the click save. Then after that you can add your lightning components to the app launcher. From setup, you can enter the apps in the quick find box. Then you can select the app manager and then to the new lightning app. Then you can follow the steps in the wizard that is given. You can go on the navigation item page and then you can select the lightning tab from the available item tabs and move it to the selected item list. Finish that, then after that you will finish the steps in the wizard and you can click save and finish. To check your output, navigate to the app launcher and in the Lightning Experience or the Salesforce mobile app. Then you have to click the custom app to see the components that you have added. These all things that I am telling you theoretically, that will be I'll be displaying these things in the next lecture. Then when I have to perform the Apex class security, then I have to limit which users can execute methods in the Apex class. Then you have to limit the users and then the permission is set. You can set application class security with the help of the Apex class list page. And then an Apex class detail page is shown. Then I have the permission sets. Then I have the different profiles. Then Apex class list page is selected. Then Apex class detail page you can also select. You can set the permission set. You can set the profiles, different profiles for your Apex security. So we have the different permissions that will apply only to the Apex class methods. You can also include the web methods in that, and then you can use the customized Visual Force controller, which will help you to apply for the Visual Salesforce page. And then triggers are always there to fire on the such events such as insert or update or the user's permission. Then if I have installed a managed package in our organization org folder, then you can set that security only to the Apex classes in that particular package that is declared as the global. The access specifier is declared as global, or for the classes method that is declared as the web service. So if you have the different users that are author per Apex permissions, they can access all Apex classes in the associated organization. regardless of the security settings for the individual classes. Now, whenever for permission for an Apex class is checked, only then that will be at the top level. For example, if I have a class A and then I have a class B. So if a class A is calling a class B, so the user X has a profile that can access only class A, but it cannot access class B. So the user X can execute the code in class B, but only through class A. Now user X cannot directly call or invoke the class B directly. So if I am using a Visual Force page, so that will use a custom component with the associated controller. The security is only checked for the controller associated with the page. The controller associated with the custom component executes regardless of the permissions that you have provided. Now whenever I have to set Apex class access from the class list page, so from setup I have to enter the Apex classes in the quick find box, then select app classes. Next to the name of the class that you want to restrict, you can click on the security, and then from the profile you want to enable from the available profile list and click add, or select the profiles that you want to disable from the enable profile list, and then you can click remove and then click save. Now you are setting the Apex class access from the class detail page. So from setup we are entering the Apex classes in the quick find box and then select Apex classes. Then I'm clicking the name of the class that I want to restrict, and then I'm clicking on the security. From there you will be directed to the profile page. Whichever profile you want to enable, you can enable from the list of the available profiles, and then you can click on the add button so that the selected profile that you want to disable can enable profile list. You can use it, and then you can click remove, and after that you can click save, so that the associated profile will now be removed. Now whenever I have to set an Apex class access from the permission set, you can specify which all methods as a top level Apex class are executable for a permission set. Now, this type of setting will only be applicable to the Apex class method. So, whenever I have a web service method or any other service in a Visual Force controller or a controller extension, then you can easily apply to the Visual Force page. The triggers are always fired on a trigger event such as the insert or update, and then whether we have the permission settings or not, the trigger will be fired. Now from setup we are entering the permission set in the quick find box. Then I have the select permission set. Then I have a these are the steps for selecting the permission set. We have firstly to select a permission set, then we have to click on the Apex class access, then I have to click edit, and then I have to select the Apex classes that I want to enable from the available Apex class list, and then from there I am adding it, or then we can also select the Apex class that I want to disable from the enabled Apex classes list, and then I can remove from there, and then I can click save. Then I have a Apex class access from different profiles. So there are the settings that will be applied to Apex class method. For example, if I apply the setting to the web service method or any other method in the custom Visual Force, then all these settings will be applied to the Visual Force page. So the triggers will always fire whenever an event occurs. So whether an insert or update or remove event is occurring, so everything will be there. Then from here I am moving to the setup, and then I am entering the profiles in the quick find box, and then I am selecting the profile. Then I select a profile and click its name. In the Apex class access page or the related list, I am clicking edit, and then I'm selecting the Apex class that I want to enable from the available Apex class list, and then I can click add, or I can simply select the Apex class that I want to disable and then click on the remove and then click save. Now I have to create Apex sharing reasons. So whenever I have to create a Apex sharing reasons, the code should be a managed and a sharing code so that you can create Apex sharing methods or the reasons when for creating the custom objects to indicate why sharing was implemented. And then when I am creating the Apex managed sharing, I can create Apex sharing reasons for individual custom objects to indicate why sharing was implemented, or I can simply apply the coding that is required to update and delete the sharing record, and then after the updation is done, I can share the record multiple times with the same user or with the different users that are having Apex sharing reasons. Now I have the Salesforce displays Apex sharing reasons in the reason column. So whenever I am viewing the sharing for a custom object record in the user interface. Now this will allow users and administrator to understand the purpose of the sharing. So whenever I am working with the Apex sharing reasons, I need to take in take into mind that what all things can be done. So the users with the modify all data permission can edit or add or delete the sharing. Other users who do not have the modify all data permission cannot access or change the Apex sharing reason. I can delete an Apex sharing reason. It will delete all the sharing on the object that uses the reasons. You can also create up to 10 Apex sharing reasons per custom object. You can create Apex sharing reasons using the metadata API. Then to create an Apex sharing reason, so from the management setting for the custom object, you can click new in the Apex sharing reasons related list, and then I can enter a label for the Apex sharing reason. The label will be displayed on the reason column whenever you are viewing the sharing for the record that is available in the user interface. The label is also enabled for translation through the translation workbench, and then you need to enter a name for the Apex sharing reason. The name is used when referencing the reason in the API and the Apex, and this name can contain only underscores and the alphanumeric characters, and it can be unique in the organization, and it will also begin with a letter. It cannot use the spaces, it cannot end with the underscore, and cannot contain two consecutive underscores. So these are the validations that you need to follow. Then you have the save. Then after that, you are recalculating the Apex manage sharing. The developers, while using the Apex manage sharing, you need to keep into mind that the data is secure and it cannot be changed with the multiple users who do not have the access permission, and the data should not be corrupted. So the developers can write batch of Apex classes that will recalculate the Apex managed sharing for a custom object. And then from here you can associate these classes with the custom objects on the detail page, and then you can execute them if the locking issue is preventing Apex from granting access to the user as designed by the application's logic. Now we have the Apex sharing recalculations that are useful for resolving any of the visibility issues due to the coding errors. Now, if a developer corrects a coding error that is preventing user from accessing record, they should see the correction might only affect records created after the code update. So, to ensure the correction applies to existing records as well as the developer can run an Apex sharing recalculation to validate sharing on all records. Now you can run Apex sharing recalculations from a custom objects detail page. You can also run them programmatically. You can use the database.execute batch match method. Then you can also use the sales. After using that, you can also use the Salesforce automatically run Apex recalculation classes that are defined for a custom object every time a custom object organization wide sharing is made as a default access level, and that is updated. So the Salesforce is automatically recalculating sharing of all the records on the object when its organization wide sharing default access level changes. So the recalculation includes the access granted by the sharing rules. So in addition, all types of sharing are removed if the access they granted is redundant. Now for example, the mutual sharing which grants read-only access to a user is deleted when the object sharing model is changed from private to public read-only. Now from the management setting for the custom object, you have to go to the Apex sharing recalculations, and then from there you are moving on to the Apex class that will recalculate the Apex sharing for the object. Now you can the select the class that will be implementing the database.batchable interface. You cannot associate any of the uh, same Apex class multiple times with the same object that was customized. Now you have to click save. Then you have to associate an Apex managed sharing carry calculation class with a custom object. Now to run an Apex sharing recalculation from the management setting for a custom object, you are going to the Apex sharing calculation and then you are clicking onto the new. So when working with the Apex sharing recalculations, you note the following: the Apex code that extend the sharing recalculations that can process a maximum of 5 million records. If this Apex code affects more than 5 million records, the job is failing immediately. You can also monitor the status of the Apex sharing recalculations in the Apex job queue. Then you can associate a maximum of 5 Apex sharing recalculations per custom object. Now you cannot associate Apex sharing recalculations with the standard objects. Now we are moving on to the Visual Force. So Visual Force is a framework that is allowing the developers to build more sophisticated and more custom user interfaces that can be easily hosted, and it can be performed on the Lightning platform. The Visual Force framework includes a tag-based markup language that is very much similar to HTML and a set of server-side standard controllers that make basic database operations such as queries and save simples to perform. So for new development, the Salesforce is recommending using Lightning Experience low-code tools and Lightning Web Components over Visual Force for the most modern, performant, and responsive functionalities. With the Visual Force, you can create custom user interface that easily use standard Salesforce styles. You can create custom user interfaces that completely replaces the standard Salesforce styles. You can build wizards, and other navigation patterns can also be built that use the data specific rules for optimal, efficient, and application interaction. Then you have the Visual Force comes with a rich component library that will allow you to quickly build pages without having to create very much functionality. So the Visual Force markup language has a tag, and each tag corresponds to a coarse or fine-grained component. So a section of a page or a related list or a field. Related list or a field, then the components can either be controlled by the same logic that is using that is used in the standard Salesforce pages, or the developers can associate their own logic with the custom controller or the controller extension written in the Apex. Then we have the Visual Force pages. The Visual Force pages are the container for, like the HTML pages. The Visual Force pages are also used for the building the web pages with the custom apps that are built in with the Visual Force. Now you can create the Visual Force pages by adding the different components that are standard components or the custom components, the static HTML markup, the CSS styles, and the JavaScript to the pages. Then you have the Visual Force components. The Visual Force components are the very small pieces of functionalities like the widgets, the panels, the user interfaces elements, anything that can be used in the Visual Force page markup. You can use the different standard Visual Force components. You can create your own custom components. Likewise, in HTML pages, when we were developing the HTML website, we can create multiple tags. We can also use the customized tags. We can create table. Whenever I have if anybody has used the Visual Force, the C sharp or the .NET technology, there is a Visual Studio that is providing you with the custom apps. So these custom apps can be easily accessed and you can develop your own components. Then you have the static resources. So these static resources will be allowing us to upload any content that I want to add as a reference in the Visual Force page. We can also use the zip files, the jar files, the images, the different style sheets, the CSS, the JavaScripts, and the other files. The static resources can also be used with the Salesforce, or you can also use the different components of the Visual Force, but you cannot host any of the content here for any other applications or the website. Then you have the Visual Force pages. Visual Force pages are defined as the top level containers, that is for the custom app built with the Visual Force. When you have to create a Visual Force page by adding Visual Force components, static HTML markup and the CSS style and the JavaScript are used to the page. So every time a Visual Force page is created, it will be unique and it has a permanent URL. You can also link Visual Force pages together to build complex app functionalities. When you have to create Visual Force pages, you can either develop it by Visual Force development mode, or you can simply create a Visual Force page by creating pages in setup. You can enable development mode. You can view and edit Visual Force pages. Now you can manage Visual Force pages. You can manage the version settings for those Visual Force pages and the components that are customized and that are used. Then you have to create the Visual Force tabs. You are building the Visual Force tabs so that users can access Visual Force pages from the Salesforce platform itself. Then you are merging the fields for the Visual Force pages. You can also get the exception in the Visual Force. You can use extra information whenever a page is having any of the errors during the execution. This will help us to resolve the problem with the page code, or you can track down a owner to look further into the problem. You have the different browser security settings and the Visual Force. So some of the Visual Force pages are running from the .force.com servers. But if you want to set your own browser settings, so you can set it to your customized settings and add it into your salesforce.com. You can also add .force.com and visualforce.com to the list of those salesforce.com. Then you have to, how you can create Visual Force pages. You can create the Visual Force pages either by using the Visual Force development mode, or you can simply used by creating pages in the setup. So whenever you have to create a page using the quick fix tools available in the Visual Force development mode, you are using, firstly you are moving on to your browser. You are entering a URL into the following form, that is HTTPS, then backslash, double backslash, then your Salesforce org URL, and then slash apex, and then the name of the new page, and then the value of your Salesforce org URL is the URL name used to access your Salesforce org. Now, because there are different, likewise, there is an example HTTPS colon double slash then my domain name dot my sales dot my dot salesforce.com slash apex slash hello world. So because the pages you are accessing is directly not existing, so you are directed to the intermediary page from where you can create your own new pages. You can create page name of the new page to create the new page, then both the page name and the label are assigned, and the name of the new page value is specified in the URL. Then whenever I have to create pages in the setup, from setup I am entering the Visual Force pages in the quick find box. Then I am selecting the Visual Force pages, and then I am clicking on the new. In the new text box will open. Then you need to give the name or the text that you want to appear in the URL as the page name. Then this name will contain only the underscores and the alphanumeric characters, because you are displaying it as a URL page name, and should be unique in your org. It should always begin with a letter. It should not include subspaces. It should not end with an underscore. It should not contain two consecutive underscores. In the label text box, you are entering the text that should be used to identify the page in the setup tools, such as whenever defining custom tabs or overriding standard buttons. Now, in the name text box, you are entering the text that should be used to identify the page in the UPI, and then this name can only contain underscores and alphanumeric characters. Then in the description text box, you are specifying an optional description of the page. Then you are selecting the available Salesforce mobile applications so that you can enable the Visual Force tabs associated with the Visual Force page that is needs to be displayed in the Salesforce mobile app. Now there is a checkbox that is available for pages that will be setting to the API version 27.0, and after that then I have to select this required CSRF protection on the GET request to enable the cross-site request forgery protection for GET request from the page, because I want to save my pages from forgery as well as from the different erroneous or the hackers or the intruders. Now, last but not last in this is you are checking the box if the page is performing in the any DML operation. So when it is initially loaded. So when checked, all the links to this page will need a CSRF token added to the URL query, that is string parameters. Now you have a checkbox that will be available for pages to set API 28 and then to later. So in the Visual Force markup text box, you need to enter Visual Force markup for the page. A single page will be holding up to 1 MB of text or more than these characters. Then you have the click version settings to specify the version of the Visual Force and the API that is used with this page. You can also specify versions for any managed packages that is installed on your organization. You can also click save to save your changes and then return to the Visual Force detail screen. Or you can simply click on the click save to save your changes and continue editing your page. Then I have the enable development mode. So whenever I want to view and edit a Visual Force pages definitions on the Visual Force pages, so you will go into the page setup and then from there you will enable the Visual Force development mode that is used to build the Visual Force pages. So with the with the development mode, that will help us to provide a special development footer on every Visual Force page that will include the pages, view state, any associated controller, or a link to the component reference documentation, and a page markup editor that offers the highlighting. Then I can find replace functionality, then the auto suggest for the component tag and the attribute names, then the ability to define new Visual Force pages just by entering a unique URL. Then you have the error messages that will include more detailed stack traces than what standard users receive. Then you are enabling the Visual Force development mode. So for that, from your personal settings, you need to enter the advanced user details in the quick find box. Then you can select the advanced user details and then enter the personal information in the quick find box. Then you need to select the personal information and then click on the edit and then select the development mode checkbox. So optionally, there is an option to show view data state. Either you want to select, if you want to select it, then you need to click on the view state tab on the development footer, and this will be helpful for monitoring the performance of your Visual Force pages. Then you click on the save button. Then you have your view and edit Visual Force pages. So from setup, you are entering the Visual Force pages in the quick find box, and then you are selecting the Visual Force pages, and then you are clicking the name of the visual face that you want to view and edit, and then so all the details will be shown to you. When was it created, when was it last modified, what all markup languages, markup associated components are created. Now from this detail page you can perform any of the editing of the already existing pages. So you have to click edit to edit the existing page markup. Then you need to create detail, delete that it will help us to delete the page. You will click on the delete page option, then click on the clone if you want to create the copy of a particular page. You can also specify the new name for the pages. Then I'm clicking where this is used. Then to view a list of references to the page in the organization, then I am clicking on the show dependencies to display the items such as fields, objects, or other classes that must exist for this class. And then I am clicking on the preview to open the page in the new window. If if any of the Salesforce page is contained in an install manage package, the install package indicates the package name. The available package in the package versions field gives the range of the package versions. Now, whenever I have to view and edit the Visual Force page with the development mode enabled, so with the development mode enabled, you can easily view and edit the contents of the page by navigating through the URL of that particular page. So if a page is named Hello World and your Salesforce URL is mydomain.my.salesforce.com, then you need to enter the https://my.salesforce.com/apex/hello world in the browser's URL or the address bar. So after enabling the development mode, all the Visual Force pages display with the development mode footer at the bottom of the browser. So here uh, from this you can click the tab with the name of the page you want to open and edit, and then you can edit the associated Visual Force markup without having to return to the setup area, and then the changes will be displayed automatically. And if the pages are using the custom controller, then the name of that controller should also be provided and available in the tab. You have to click on the tab and then edit the associated Apex class. So if the page is using any of the controller extension, the name of that particular each extension are available as tabs. Now clicking on the tablet is enabling us to edit the associated Apex class. If enabled in the setup, the view state tab disables the information about the items distributed in the view state of the Visualforce page. You can click the save to save the changes, then click on the component reference to provide the documentation. Then where we have to click, where we have to save this or where we have to use it, you have to click where this is used, and then you have to use the click collapse button if you want to collapse any icon in the development mode panel, and then you are using the disable development mode button when you have to turn off the development mode entirely. Then you are managing your Visualforce pages. So after the Visualforce pages are created, you need to edit or delete, or you want to manage those pages. So for this, you need to click on new to define a new Visualforce page, and then you click on the page name to display detailed information of that particular page, including its labels and the Visualforce markup. Then you are need to click on the edit next to the page name to modify any of the page name, label, or the Visualforce markup. Then I click on the delete to remove a page. Then I click on security, manage the security for the page. Then I click on the preview button to open the page in a new window. Then I can manage version settings for the Visualforce pages and the custom components. For this, every Visualforce and the custom component that are associated with it should have a version setting for a specified version of the API as well as the specific version of the Visualforce. So if the Visualforce page or the component reference installed in the managed packages, then the version settings for each managed package referenced by the page or the component is saved. Then this will help us to that a Visualforce, that the API and the components, the managed packages evolve in the subsequent versions. Then a package version is a number of the identities that a set of components are uploaded into the package. The version number has the format, the major number, the minor number, the patch number. The major and minor number increase the chosen value from every major release. The patch number is generated and updated only a patch after a patch releases. Then the publishers can use package versions to evolve the components in their managed packages. Then if I want to set the Salesforce API and the Visualforce version for a Visualforce page or a custom component, I simply edit a Visualforce page or a component and click on the version settings. Then I select the version of the Salesforce API. Then I click on the save, and then after that if I want to configure the package version settings for a Visualforce page or for a custom component that I have created, I click on the edit a Salesforce or a Visualforce page or a component, and then click on the version settings. Then after selecting a version for each managed package, the version of the managed package will continue to be used by the page or the components, and then I will click on the save button. Now whenever working with the package version settings, if you save a Visualforce page or a custom component that is referencing a managed package, that will specify a version of that per managed package. The page or the component is associated with the latest installed version of the managed package by default. You can never remove a Visualforce page or components version setting for a managed package if that page is or that package is referenced by certain page or the components. Now you can have multiple package subscribers that can use package versions to references the deleted components that you have used earlier. The Visualforce pages within a package always use their own package latest API version. Now you cannot use the deleted components. When you have to create a Visualforce tab, you need to go to the setup, then enter tabs in the quick find box. Then I have to select the tabs, then click new in the Visualforce tab related list. Then select the Visualforce page to display the custom tab. Then I am entering a label to display on the tab. And then I am clicking on the tab style lookup icon to display the tab style selected. If a tab style is already in use, a number enclosed in bracket will appear next to the tab style name. You can only view that tab using a particular style. Then you can click on the tab style to select the color scheme and icon for the custom tab. You can also you can create your own style on the tab style selector to create a custom tab style. Then you can click the color lookup icon also to display the color selection, and click on the color to select it. You can click on the image and insert a new image. You can select the document. You can select the image from that. You can also click search for the documents. You can enter a search item and then you can add the document file name that you are including in your search term. Then you are selecting a file and then clicking on the OK. The new custom tab wizard will reappear. Then there will be a choose custom link to use as the introductory splash page. When users initially click on the tab, then you can enter a description for that particular tab. Then you can use the choose the user profile for that tab. You can specify the custom apps. You can select the append tab to the user so that that tab can be added to the user customized display settings. Now you have to merge fields for the Visualforce pages. So a merge field is a field when you can put an email template or a mail merge template or custom template or formula to use the values for a particular record. So the Visualforce pages are using the same expression language as formulas. So anything that is inside an exclamation mark is evaluated, and an expression that can access values from the records are there. So this is an example that apex page, hello, anything that will be inside user dot first name. So all these values will be accessed and the username is John. So the page will be displayed hello John. Then we have the different uncaught exceptions in Visualforce. So with the Visualforce display extra information when a package encounters errors. So similarly, we have studied about the different exceptions. So if a Visualforce page is there, you do not develop any error or uncaught exception. You will see that the developer who wrote the page will receive the error via email or with your organization and the email ID. No other user data is included in the report, only the error messages are there. So if you are in the development mode and not in the same namespace as the page, you can see the exception message, the exception type and the notification that the developer was notified by the email. So if you are a developer in the same namespace as the page, then you are not in the development mode. You can see an exception message. You might also see a message indicating that the developer has been notified. If you are in a development mode, you can see the exception message, the exception type and the apex stack trace. Then I have the browser security settings in Visualforce. So there are certain pages, visual pages that are run from the .force.com servers. Now, if you are using a trusted site, then you can include the trust salesforce.com. You can also add force.com and the visualforce.com to the list. Now you can the browser privacy settings can be helping us to prevent this page that you have created from showing any content to the unauthorized users. This will help us to display the content you want to change. For the browser privacy, you can go to the third party allow settings, and from there you can enabling the cookies from the domain name, and then you can also use the browser is the you can use the Internet Explorer as a browser, and you can add the domain name, the package name to the trusted list in the security option pages. Now the Salesforce include a platform for privacy preferences project, that is P3P header. On some pages the header is composed of certain settings furnished their purpose settings, that is your CUR. The information is used to complete the activity for which it was provided. Then I have the category, that is STA, that is managing the stateful session, that is automatically recognizing the users or that can easily access the HTTP quickies. Then I have the recipient, that is the OTR, the legal entries following different practices. Now you cannot opt in or you cannot opt out of this usage. So if your browser is configured to P3P, then the header will allowing all the visual pages to be displayed. If your browser is set to block certain third-party cookies, then it will not use the P3P header, and you can see the error similar to the above, and you can see the following actions to be performed. You need to configure the P3P for your browser, then you can change your browser settings to allow third-party cookies, and then you can add the appropriate server to your browser cookies exception list. Then you have the security guidelines for Apex and Visual Force development. So the powerful combination, firstly, you need to understand the security. So the combination of Apex and the Visual Force pages allow only the Lightning platform developers to provide custom functionality and then the business logic to the Salesforce. Or you can create a new standalone product running inside the Lightning platform. But with the any programming languages, developers may be aware of the potential security related pitfalls. The Salesforce has incorporated many security differences in the Lightning platform, but still there are certain glitch in defenses, and then you can expose your application and customers to security risk. So many of the coding mistakes a developer can do on the Lightning platform that will that will be vulnerable for web application security. Now we have the cross-site scripting, that is your XSS. These are the attacks where the malicious HTML or the client-side scripting is provided to the web application. The web application is including the malicious scripting in response to the user who is not aware that he's become the victim of the attack. The attacker uses the web application, and then the victim, it gains the trust of the victim for the web application, and then that display the dynamic web pages without proper validating the data are likely to be vulnerable. Then the attacks against the website are especially easy if input from one user is shown to the other user. So here is an example that will help in including in the Lightning platform page on an event or on a Visual Force page. So the script var FOOO, then all the values are saved inside the exclamation current page dot parameters that user print, then script, and then it is closed var foo. Then again this script block will insert the value of the user that will contain the user parameter into the page, and then the attacker and enter this value for the user parameter. Then you can have the document dot location. Then in this case, all the cookies for the current page are sent to the attacker as the query string into the request to the cookie dot CGI script. Now the attacker has the victim session cookie and connect to the web application, and it will pretend as a user. The attacker can also post the malicious script using the website or the email. Then within the Lightning Pro platform, there are several anti-XSS defenses. So the Salesforce has some certain filters that screen out harmful characters, and it will eliminate them in the output methods. And for the developer, you can use the standard classes and output methods. The threads of the XSS are repeated. Then you have the existing protection. So all the standard Visual Force component that will start with the Apex have anti-XSS filters in place to screen out harmful characters. So this is an example. Apex output text, then current page, then dot parameters dot user input, Apex output. Then you can disable escape on Visual Force tags. By default, All the visual force tags include the XSS vulnerable characters. So you can disable this behavior by setting the optional attribute escape false, and this output will be vulnerable to XSS attacks. Then the programming items does not protect from XSS. So because they don't have any built-in XSS protectors, so any code that you have written can be easily used by the attackers, and this will be intended to allow the developers to customize the page by inserting the scripting commands. Then you have the custom JavaScript. If you write your own JavaScript, then the Lightning platform has no way to protect you. Then the code that is written is very much vulnerable to access because the location can be easily accessed by the attacker. So with the apex in colon include a script visual force component, you can include a custom script on the page. You can validate the content and make it safe and include no user supplied data. So this can help you to prevent the attacker. This is the code for saving your attack, for creating the custom tags and saving it from the attacker. You are not taking any request from the user. This will be providing us to do the server side escaping to the substitute formula tag. Then SOQL injections are there. So in the programming languages, the previous error that was created was known as the SQL injection. So the Apex does not use the SQL but uses its own database query language, that is SOQL. So SOQL is similar to the SQL, but the risks are very much less than the SQL. So the attacks are nearly identical and similar to the traditional SQL injection. Then it takes the user supplied inputs and uses those values in a dynamic SOQL query. So if the input is not validated, it can include SOQL commands, that will modify the SOQL statement and trick the application into performing unintended commands. Then I have the data access control. So the Lightning platform makes extensive use of data sharing. So every object that has permission can have sharing settings that the users can read, create, edit or delete. And then when I'm using an Apex class, the built-in user permissions and field level security restrictions are expected during the execution. Then I have to create a visual force page. For that the Apex code is written. So the sensitive data that can normally be hidden from the users by user permissions, field security or defaults. So from here I am also applying the query. So the class is made public, that is custom controller, and then public void read, and then you are saving the contact and selecting ID from the contact where the name is provided. So all the ID where you have performed certain name value will be given to you. So in this case, all the contact records are searched, and even if the user is currently logged in, you cannot normally have the permission to view these records. So for this, you need to have the sharing public. So with the sharing public keyword, you can use the security sharing permission for the user that is currently logged in, and you can grant the full access to the records. Thank you. That is all for today. And in the next uh, classes, in the next week, that is the last week of your this Salesforce technology, you will have to give two tests, two quizzes will be there, and the uh, assignment of the previous session will be given to you, the assignment of this session will be given to you, and the assignment of the last session that will be given to you. So all these assignment needs to be completed within the stipulated time so that you can easily get your certificates. So everybody has to mark their attendance, and the attendance is also recorded on the live session. You have to give the two quizzes for passing the test, and then you need to give four assignments. One assignment I have already given on the iLive. All these things will be conducted on the iLive platform. So thank you.